Hi guys, in this video I'll show you how I made this 2D 3D walk cycle animation. For this project I created a 2D character walk animation with 3D environment. In this video I'll be explaining everything from designing the character to final render. I'll be using grease pencil to make the 2D walk cycle animation. Then I'll model the 3D environment and use different materials and lights for the overall look. You can download this project file as well as all the previous files from my Patreon. So before starting this project, I designed a 2D character. I explored this character through different expressions and different poses. I also made a character turnaround sheet before animating it. So after designing the character, I started working on the walk cycle animation in Blender. I first did the rough pass for the walk cycle. After that, I lowered the opacity and did some cleaner lines with the help of my character sheet. And finally, I did one more pass and cleaned up the walk cycle. I also made sure that there are no gaps in the lines to avoid issues with coloring later. Now let's model the environment before we start coloring the 2D walk cycle. Let's start with the cylinder object and rotate it around the x-axis. Select the bottom faces and delete them by pressing X and then delete. Select the outer edges, then extrude and move them up, then scale them a little bit. Once again, extrude and scale the edges along the y-axis. Now select the outer edges, extrude them and move them up by pressing G and then Z. Now add an array modifier and increase the count to 7. Now scale the object to fit in the camera view. Now add a cube and scale it down by pressing S. Select the bottom face, then extrude and scale, then extrude again. Add an edge loop by pressing Ctrl+R. Insert the face by pressing I and scale it down, then press E to extrude. Add a few more edge loops and select the newly created front and back faces. Now insert the faces by pressing I, then scale a bit along the x-axis. Now select the opposite faces, then right-click and select Bridge Faces. Now add a cube object and scale it along the x-axis. Add an edge loop by pressing Ctrl+R, select the upper face and extrude by pressing E. Add 2 edge loops and delete the middle faces by pressing X and then delete. Now add an array modifier and increase the count value to 8. Now add a cube object and scale it in XY plane to create the ground. Now add a cube by pressing Shift+A and scale it down. Add an edge loop and scale the bottom face. Now insert the face by pressing I, then insert again, then extrude the face loop by pressing E. Select the top face, then extrude, scale and then extrude again. Now add a cylinder object and add edge loops to make it look round. Now select the top face and extrude by pressing E. Now add a cube and scale it down by pressing S. Select the top face, then extrude and scale. Add a cylinder object and rotate it around the x-axis. Now add edge loops and scale to make it look like a clock. Now add a cube by pressing Shift plus A to model the bench. Duplicate it by pressing Shift plus T and move it around to make it look like a bench. Extrude and rotate the lower faces by pressing E then R. Now close the faces by selecting two edges and then press F. Once again extrude and rotate the faces by pressing E then R. Select the lower faces, then extrude them and scale along the y-axis. Now let's go to render view and start with lighting. Add sunlight by pressing Shift plus A and play with it to see what interests you. Turn on wireframe option from overlays to see the objects clearly with lighting. Go to light properties on right side and play with strength and exposure. These are the nodes I'm using for the world setting. These background nodes are responsible for the color control. Now let's start adding colors through different materials on right side. Here I'm selecting the alternate faces to assign them with a dark green color. The colors I'll be using mostly in this scene will be green, yellow, blue and pink. Here I'm using a cube to control the lighting in the scene and make it look more interesting. Now let's add outlines in this scene with grease pencil scene line art. Here I'm adding a plain object for drawing on surface with grease pencil. Here I'm using the line tool to draw straight lines to add some details. Now select the stroke object, then duplicate it by pressing Shift+D. Let's add another grease pencil object to draw over this scene and add more details. Now let's start adding colors to this 2D animation as well. Here I'm creating a fill layer for coloring, which is right below the lines layer. I'm using the paint bucket tool to fill the colors quickly. Here I'm adding shadow colors on frames where the character is in shadow. Now let's add some shading on another layer which is between the lines and the fill layer. Use onion skin to add shading correctly and keep going back to see if it looks right. Here I'm creating a shadow and light color material for more grease pencil drawings. Now let's draw some glass with the help of grease pencil. Now let's do some compositing. Add a glare node by pressing Shift+A. Decreasing the threshold value will increase the bloom effect. Try different options in the glare node to see what you find interesting. Adding a blur node now to make the render look softer.